While we've watched protests disrupt cities across the country, life keeps moving in good directions. Yolanda and Kevin Cooper, who in full disclosure are friends of mine, honored their 17-year-old high school graduate KJ with a parade of friends and families. As KJ moves into adulthood, there are so many points of pride for the Coopers, but it's a worrisome time too, a byproduct of being black in a country that still doesn't accept people based on skin color. Our conversation begins with the graduate. KJ, have you been following events happening in Minneapolis and really across the country?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Okay, why?
Because I've seen it all over social media. There's been posts about it. There's been many people advocating, and it's just been very disheartening to me that these things are happening in America, especially towards African Americans.
Yolanda and Kevin Sr., you're going to be sending him off to college very soon.
Yes. Yes.
Do you have concerns knowing what's going on and what's been going on?
Yes, absolutely. We have concerns. You feel some type of safety net when your child is at home with you. When he goes off to college, we won't have that type of security, and so there's a certain amount of anxiety and concern.
But the anxiety has always been there. The Coopers telling KJ at a young age about prejudice and what he could encounter.
He began early, him as a young kid, because unfortunately there have been lots of incidents with our young African American, not only men, but with our young boys. And so the conversations in our household began early. I will say that since he's got his license, which was last year, the conversations have become more in depth. The conversations have become more, if you will, where he had to share with us what he's thinking of what's out there and us sharing with him. Having your license now and driving, there is a possibility, there is a chance that, that something may happen, that you may be pulled over.
When it comes to the instructions that you've given KJ, can you guys run through some of those instructions again?
We are very in depth and more detail with him, explaining to him how he is to handle if he is to be pulled over. As we said earlier, we not necessarily is bound to happen, but it can happen. And so we're very specific with him in that you don't question why, even though, yes, it is your right, but because of the times, unfortunately, we tell him, you do what you're asked to do. You always make sure that your hands are visible on the stern wheel or the dashboard. We tell him to always make sure your window is all the way down. And also we say if they ask you for your registration or your license and it's in the glove compartment or it's in your pocket, that you first ask that officer, is it okay for me to grab my license? My registration is in the glove compartment. Is it okay if I go to the glove compartment and open it to retrieve it so that I can give it to you? So those things may sound minor or they may sound like it's not necessary, but unfortunately it is necessary.
KJ, do you take your parents' advice to heart?
I do. I really do, because it's real. It's real. Like, these things are actually happening, and I'm living the life of an African American male.
Does it hurt you guys to have that conversation?
Yes, absolutely. Particularly in 2020. My hope is that mainstream America will become aware of how critical the situation is, and will no longer brush it or sweep it under the rug, but will become advocates for change.
My hope is that awareness is broadened.
Just hope that it brings awareness and some sort of security that us as African Americans will feel comfortable to be able to go out will feel comfortable to be able to be in their own skin.
Do you not feel comfortable in your skin?
That's a really tough question because with everything going on, it's hard.
As people are talking about this and talking about Black Lives Mattering, what is your hope for when you have a son someday?
My hope for when I have a son is that I would hope not to have these type of conversations with him. I would hope that things would turn around, that people would be able to see people as people.
We're all part of the same human family, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
According to a 2015 YouGov and Huffington Post poll, the Coopers are among 74% of Black parents who have warned their children to be cautious around police. And according to that poll, just 32% of white parents did so. Coming up, how protests across the country have evolved and devolved as people try to have a voice in the fight against police brutality.